Okay, a few people in the club have asked me about my workflow and how I get the picture to look like it does in the end. So as you see, this picture was taken in Fort Camden and it's got a very bad sky. It's totally blown out, so I need some way of getting a sky in there. So if I open a new layer down here, so now I have a layer and I have a sky on a different form here. So if I press Control A to select it all, Control C to copy it, back to my picture and into this layer, Control V. So here's the picture of the sky. So Control T to transform it, and you'll see the box appearing around it. So I'll come up, put it in the top corner, and we just want to stretch this down so that it covers the area that I need for the sky. Press this tick to accept. Now I need to move this layer below the background, but the background there is locked because it's the main layer. So if I double click on the background there and press OK, it's now unlocked. So if I catch the sky and I bring it down below the picture, it's now behind it. So if I go back up to this layer with my original picture, just to show you that it is behind it, if I get the eraser and erase out a bit, you can see the sky is behind it. So I'll just press Control Z to undo that. So now I have to select the area that I want to erase. So if I use the quick selection tool here, quick select tool, and we'll just do a very rough selection of the area that we want, so that'll do fine. Now if I press Refine Edge up here, it'll leave me do an even closer adjustment on the selection. There's a few ways of viewing it here. There's an overlay, it's kind of red, there's a black one, there's a white one, whichever you like. So if I do the overlay, you can see some of these bushes aren't selected properly. So I'll just paint over them with a brush to bring in the selection. You can see now they're starting to come in. You can keep doing it if you get areas that aren't quite right. So just to get the Photoshop to look at the edge all around, I just do a selection all around the edge, so it'll just look at that area. So now that's a pretty good selection. There's a little piece up here, so just put it in. Okay, that's pretty good. So now after that, if you do the smart radius, it'll again just refine it again, and I'll bring this up, say, to around 6 or 8, somewhere around there. Now when you select, you'll see that sometimes the selection will be slightly outside the area you want. It just kind of hovers on the edge. So to do that, I'll just shift the edge in a bit, say to about 14. So this will bring it in so I don't get a halo around the edge. To sharpen up the selection, a small bit of contrast is always no harm. And I press OK. So now you'll see we have a pretty good selection of the area we want. So you just press the delete key and that will delete that area. Control D to deselect, and now we have a pretty good picture there. After that, we want to flatten these two layers down. So if we go to our layer and flatten image, they're now brought into one layer. So just to pop up the contrast and the colors a bit, if I go into filter and camera raw filter, there's lots of different ways of doing this, but this is just quite an easy way of doing it. If I turn up the clarity here a bit, it'll just pull out the contrast or the midtones a bit. The saturation will bring up the colors and give it a small bit of contrast, and maybe just bring out the shadows a small bit. So if I go up to FX up here, I can just put in my small bit of vignetting on the edges, maybe something like that. If I go back over to the main one here again, I think it's just a little bit too dull, so we'll just brighten it up a small bit. Might bring the highlights down a bit, and we'll go OK to accept that. So we've gone from this picture to this picture in only 4 minutes. So that's basically it, and if you enjoyed this one, maybe I'll do another few.